jolts you awake, what keeps you up? Hey, touch me if you can. Hello and welcome. So I promised to do a video on which archetypes tend to pair better with which ones. So this is what this video is going to be. And I actually did attempt to do this video. It was super long. So I'm going to break it down per archetype. So this video will start off with the first archetype that I started on this channel, which is the King and the Queen archetype. And again, if you want a refresher, click on the I button somewhere here to take you back to that video. Quick summary. The King and the Queen archetype, they're the embodiment of power and control. These tend to be the leaders in society, the CEO, the business person. That's what they do best. They like creating and establishing a structure. So think of structure. When it comes to love and when it comes to partnership, this archetype can be very calculating. So we're going to start with the Queen archetype. Ladies first. When it comes to love, right? The people who embody the Queen archetype, they like a partner who is both love and status. So think of love and status in a nicely wrapped bow. And what do I mean by status? I mean any identifier that will place you high on a hierarchy. So for men, this would be a man of means, men with resource, men with money, stuff like that. All right. And for women, it tends to be beauty and the way she looks. You know, very stereotypical. Someone who has the Queen archetype, they would tend to partner up. And I do want to place a caveat here. When I mean partner up, I mean like long-term relationship and possibly marriage. Any archetype would date any other archetype just because they want to have fun. But when I mean partner up, I'm talking about the archetype that would be committed to one another. Sometimes it can be, you know, as long as they want or till death do us part. Other times it can be for a period of time. I don't think a marker of love is time, but I know a lot of people do. So when I mean partnership, I mean like long committed relationship or long partnership and possibly marriage. The people who embody the Queen and the King archetype, they like to marry. They are the definition of marriage material because, again, they want a partner who represents love and status in one neatly wrapped bow. And for most cultures or most society, the family structure, the family establishment, if you want to call it, is something that most of us are told to strive for. You know, the mom, the dad, 2 kids, and a white picket fence. Apparently the dream that all of us are supposed to have. How do we all have this dream? Marketing, okay? It's marketing. It's all a marketing ploy. How can 8 billion people have the exact same dream? Anyways, we're not talking about that. So we're talking about this archetype. People who embody the Queen archetype partner with people who are the representation of status and love. But this is status and love depending on where they are in their lives. What do I mean by that? If someone has the Queen archetype, remember, it's an archetype of power and control. They like structures and they like establishing those structures and establishing foundations, and they are the CEOs. When a person has Queen archetype and they have yet to establish the foundation they want to establish, they will partner up with someone who has the King archetype. This is not actually common because most archetypes, they do not partner up with their masculine vessel. But for the Queen and the King archetype, they partner up with each other in the beginning when they have yet to establish their structure. So someone who has a Queen archetype, for example, she has yet to make her business, or it's usually a business, okay? Make her business, build her empire or whatever. She will partner up with someone who has the King archetype, who has the resources, you know. In the male context of the society, this will mean resources, a man of means, or money. Also the love component, right? She'll partner with someone who has all those stuff, and they will build their empire together. Because both of these archetypes, they're really ambitious. So they push themselves and they drive themselves forward. But this is when she has yet to build her empire. So they would tend to seek each other out, come together, come in a union, and build their empire. Once that empire has been established, once the foundation has been laid, once they have made their dream come true, as you can say. When I mean partner up together, I mean they will marry each other, okay? It's not just boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, long-term partner. It is a committed institution, which is marriage. They will marry each other. They will build up their empire. They will be that family who's always, that perfect family, the idea of the perfect family who are always on point, that family that we should all strive to be for. And, those people who say, I have it all, my career, my kids, blah, blah, blah. That's who they are. But after that establishment has been made, after that foundation has been made, after that structure has been made, they can go either two ways. They can either stay with their partner that they married, that represents status and love in one nice little package, or they will actually break up. And when I mean break up for these people, it might not even be a divorce. It might just be a separation or an understanding.
We should put up this front for the public. However, our private lives, we can live it differently.
Honestly, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just refer back to the video, because they're very image driven. They're very image conscious, and they're very conscious of their reputation in their little bubble. Once their structure has been made, they can either separate from their partner or still be married together but just living apart, and they would choose other partners. It's very important for the archetype who tend to be chosen by the queen to know the relationship between the queen archetype and the king archetype is a very strong one, especially when she is establishing herself. And I'm not saying you're second best, okay? But what I'm saying is these two will always find each other, because we tend to be attached to a degree to the person who was there at our lowest. I'm sure you can understand this. We tend to be attached to the person who was there at our lowest, to the person who encouraged us, to the person who believed our dreams will come true. When this archetype has yet to establish herself, she will seek out a partner who's capable of making her dream come true. And the king archetype also does the same thing. So it's not just the queen archetype thing. They both do this. And once they have established themselves, they might not want to put up that performance every single day, because it's tiring. It's tiring to always be performing for the public, the perfect family image, or keeping the perfect CEO image. It's inspirational, but it's also tiring. And we need a balance in life. So the archetype that the queen tends to choose after she has established herself, after her empire has been built, basically when she's relaxed and she's more secure in her position, she would now tend to partner up. This is where it could be marriage, or it could just be a long-term relationship, depending on if she's still married to her ex-husband. It gets muddy, okay? But it doesn't mean she doesn't love you. She would tend to partner up with the Hermit. The Hermit is the reserved, quiet, maybe even stoic male. And again, just click on the eye to know what the Hermit archetype is. He's the embodiment of acceptance and detachment. And there are people who tend to come across as quiet, reserved to themselves, maybe even stoic. It depends. He's very chill. He's very laid back, and he's also very accepting. The Hermit is non-judgmental, so he's gonna accept her two sides. Her image conscious side, who wants the family to do this, the family to do that, to present a certain structure. And also he will help her just relax, be more laid back when she comes from work into the home, and it will just be a happy family. Just no need to perform, no need to be Mrs. blah 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 or whatever title she has. She can just relax and be her authentic self. Oh wait, I forgot one more. Oh my gosh. And lastly, the archetype that people who have the queen archetype would choose is the caretaker. Just click on the I button to know what the archetype is. But the dynamic in this relationship will mostly be like the career-driven mom and the stay-at-home dad, because the caretaker is an archetype of nurture and they really like kids. So if they have kids, the person who has that caretaking archetype would take on that role of the doting dad, the soccer dad, if that's a thing. Is that a thing? I don't know. The dad who's involved and really give that space for his wife to keep building her empire, keep doing what she does best. And when they come at home, the good family unit, again, she can take off that CEO title, take off her crown, and just relax, take a soak in the bath, and just chill. So basically, think of this: when the queen has yet to establish herself, meaning she's poor, but she has this dream, she has this vision, and she has this plan, she will pick someone who has the king archetype, same energy as her. They both amplify each other and they make their dreams come true. They build their empire. Once that empire has been established, she may or may not stay with her current husband, and they're heavy marriage focused. So these two marry, okay? She may or may not stay with her current husband, but in the case that she doesn't, in the case of a separation or maybe a divorce, she will still keep in touch with her husband. They are very amicable when they break apart because they have a similar energy, so they do understand each other. When they do go their separate ways, someone who has the queen archetype would then pick the hermit and the caretaker. So now for the king archetype, same thing, same business. When he has yet to establish himself, he will seek out a person who is a representation of status and love in a nice little package. Usually for women, this is the way they look, the way they present themselves, and sometimes even their minds. When a king has yet to establish himself, he would tend to choose a woman or person who has queen archetype. And again, that is the same energy as him. They amplify one another and they build their business together. Or he would choose a woman or person who has sage archetype. Click on the eye right here to know what the sage is. The sage is intellectual and analytical, and they come up with amazing plans, and they're really good at networking. Again, every single skill you need to build your empire, make your business succeed, all those stuff. And once the king has built his empire, once the foundation has been laid flat, once the empire has risen, once everything has been established, he may or may not stay with his current partner, which for someone who has a king archetype, this will be the queen or the sage. He may or may not stay, but in an event that they do break apart, which in this state will be divorce or separation. It depends though. If someone who has a king archetype breaks away from someone who has a queen archetype, it's usually amicable. They understand one another, okay? If someone who has a king archetype breaks away with someone who has a sage archetype, it's going to be a messy divorce. It's going to be a messy, messy, messy divorce. Because remember, if you go back to the sage archetype, they are lawyers. They are going to come for every single thing you have. Do with that what you want. But after that, he would then choose a different archetype. And again, it's not that you're a second choice. It's just the way this archetype works, okay? There's a period where it has yet to establish itself and a period where it establishes itself. So it's not that you're a second choice. It's just the way they work. He'll pick a different archetype. And one of this archetype is the nurturing mother archetype. And this is basically your stereotypical dad goes to work, mom takes care of the kids in the household and everything in the house, blah, blah, blah. They come together and they're a happy little house family. A picture perfect. That's literally what it is. At work, he's this tough businessman. At home, he's this caring family man. Another archetype that someone who embodies the king archetype will pair up with after he has established himself is the mystic archetype. And same as a hermit, click on the I button. Mystic, the embodiment of acceptance and detachment. And this is, again, your stereotypical. There's so many examples for men, but not enough for women. Anyways, this is your stereotypical business guy who is this tough business dude. He's tough, but then when his wife is around, he's a completely different person. It's like a switch just went on. Because again, the mystic is the embodiment of acceptance and detachment. So someone who has a king archetype will feel more, just like the queen feels with the hermit, more at ease, not feeling like they have to put up a front and they can just be their authentic self. The mystic is very chill, very laid back, very reserved, kind of stoic, same as the hermit. This is literally your stereotypical extroverted, loudmouth business guy. and his quiet little wife who's just sitting in the corner, just like la da 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 da. But it does work for these two. Okay. Yes, so that is it for the king prospect. Again, you have to separate it in terms of if he has yet to establish himself, he would choose a woman or person who embodies queen archetype or sage archetype. And once he has already established himself, he would choose someone who embodies nurturing mother archetype or the mystic archetype. And again, for these two archetypes, they're very heavy marriage focused, okay? So they will marry if they have divorced their previous partner. And in the case of the separation, which would tend to happen between the king and the queen, they will not marry you because they're separated, but it gets muddy. But it's good to understand that because, like I said, the king and the queen, they have a very special relationship, especially when these two archetypes meet each other when they have yet to establish themselves. They tend to keep that bond alive. Even if they're not together, they'll be amicable together. They'll be able to talk to one another because they represent the same exact energy. It's like being mad at yourself. How long can you be mad at yourself for? I mean, some people can be mad at themselves for a while, but some of us cannot. So that's why these people, they're very amicable and they might even laugh together. And just understand that that is how they work. And I actually forgot to add this. This can kind of apply to both, but it's mostly men who have the king archetype, unfortunately. Okay, the world tells us this is a man's world. Men are at the top, women at the bottom, blah, blah, blah. A thing to note for people, for men especially, who have the king archetype is they are very focused on their status, their reputation, and what they have accomplished. In this society that especially tells us men need to bring the resources and women need to bring the looks. And it will present an image of this perfect guy, this perfect business guy, this billionaire, this guy of means who has money, who has resources, but in the back, he's doing everything else, okay? Everything he's saying he would not do in the public, he's doing it in the back. I don't know why I said this, but this is why I don't think most men have a type. Because if the men who do have a type, they tend to be men who have this archetype of the king archetype of power and control. They love power and they like being in charge and being in control. It's their thing. And they like to control the narrative of how they are perceived of their lives. And sometimes, like I said, that status and love, it tends to be a woman who fits the conventional beauty standard. And they would choose a partner just because she fits the conventional beauty standard. And yes, she's pretty. She's probably a nice lady. But in the back, he's going to be with the rainbow. And I do mean the rainbow. But they will deny. They will never do this. That is something to keep in mind if you are someone who has the king archetype, or you tend to be one of the archetypes that pairs up well with the king, is to know that not everything he says is true. Sometimes it's just a front. But then other times he can be honest and tell you the truth. Okay. They're not straight out going to lie to you like the charmer is. That is another archetype. They're not straight out going to lie to you. They're just going to not tell you the truth or omit some stuff that will make you think a different way. So they're very particular about the words they use. But honestly, once you catch on to it, you know exactly what he's saying. So that is the king archetype. And women who have the queen archetype, they do this to a degree, but it's different for women because women have to navigate the world differently from a man. If a woman is just out here, not even philandering, just having multiple relationships, she gets labeled something. Whereas if a guy does it,
oh, he's the bro, he's that dude.
Double standards, I'm aware. But it's just something to keep in mind, especially if you're one of the archetypes that pairs well with someone who has king archetype. So that is it for this video. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And let me know what you think of my 50s style hair. Wasn't supposed to be 50s style hair, but here we are. Okay, so that is it. Please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. And I'll see you next week. Bye.